Karen Nutting, the owner of Integrity Insurance Services here in Arizona, and what we have for you today is a complete module on understanding homeowners insurance, but specifically bills for realtors. So what ultimately we are here for today is to familiarize realtors with homeowners insurance and property insurance and help realtors to become a more valuable asset to their clients. We're also here to share how Integrity Insurance Services can be a valuable partner to realtors and their clients. So we're just going to jump right in since we have quite a bit of content to cover, and we want to leave you with the most bang for your buck. So we're going to jump right into the homeowners insurance policy. The homeowners insurance policy is spread out in 6 basic parts. Coverage A through F, starting with dwelling, other structures, personal property, loss of use, personal family liability, and of course medical payments. We're going to go into each one of these in depth, but this is what a standard homeowners insurance breaks into. So first we start with the, oh my gosh, what do we do now moment. This is going to carry us into the dwelling coverage. This coverage is provided for the main structure on the property and any attached structures. For example, the attached garage. Anything that is not attached would not be considered covered in this specific category. This is based on replacement cost estimator, not market value. Coverage is subject to deductible, and the dwelling amount is used to calculate other limits on the policy. Replacement versus listing price. This is single-handedly probably the most asked question from clients, as well as realtors and even mortgage lenders when there's a purchase of a new home happening. Replacement value is the amount it would cost to rebuild and replace the home and structures based on the current local price of labor, raw materials, and including demolition, debris removal, building permits, and of course, so much more. Insurance coverage is always based on replacement cost. So listing price and market value. The amount for which something can be sold in a given market is going to be your listing price. Insurance coverage is not based on market value since it includes the price of the land, which is not insurable. Coverage B, which is your other structures. This coverage is provided for detached structures on the property. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, it's going to cover things like your garage, shed, pool. That is not limited to those items. However, those are just 3 of the most common items. Coverage starts at 10% of the coverage A dwelling amount. This is subject to deductible, and the limit may be increased to accommodate the number and size of buildings. Coverage C is going to be your personal property. This coverage is for your personal belongings that are damaged due to a covered loss. What I like to tell my clients is if you take your home and you flip it upside down, everything that were to fall out would be considered your personal contents. Of course, if it was an item you would take if you moved, this would also be another way you could look at personal property. Coverage for this starts at 50% of the dwelling and can be increased, contains internal limits for items such as jewelry, arts, computer, etc. Coverage D is going to be your loss of use. This coverage is for additional living expenses from being displaced from your home due to a covered loss. Coverage starts at 20% of the dwelling, may be increased on some policies, and this does not carry a deductible. Coverage E is going to be the liability section of your policy. This coverage is for defense and settlement if you are sued or you are found negligent for injuries or property damage. For example, if your dog bites someone. Coverage begins at $100,000 and can be increased up to $1 million. My agency always recommends we start at $300,000, and liability does not carry a deductible. The bonus item to this is going to be umbrella insurance. An umbrella policy is a liability policy that provides additional limits in increments of $1 million for a minimal price. This is imperative to speak with your independent insurance agent about, because not only can it provide you extended umbrella coverage for your home, it can also go over other items such as your auto, any kind of investment properties, etc. So this is where you really want to make sure that you have a very reliable source like Integrity Insurance Services to work with and make sure that they are being covered adequately. Coverage F is medical payments. Coverage for medical bills or of those injured on your location regardless of the legal liability. This is also something we like to call in the insurance business your goodwill coverage. Helps to prevent the lawsuit or the use of the liability coverage in coverage E. The limits, depending on the state that you're in, can vary between $1,000 to $5,000 that are available for you. Medical payments does not carry a deductible. Some common insurance terms as a realtor you'll want to make sure that you kind of know, at least enough to know that if you don't know, you can always refer back to here. Replacement cost versus actual cash value is something that's very common, specifically here in Arizona. Replacement cost is the actual cost to replace an item or structure at its pre-loss condition. Actual cash value is computed by subtracting depreciation from replacement cost. An example of what we see with that here in Arizona are items such as manufactured homes. You're also going to have on the other side your open perils versus named perils policies. An open peril insures against loss to covered property from all causes except those that are specifically excluded. Named perils are going to insure against loss to covered property from only those causes that are specifically named on the policy. Some of these types of homeowner and property policies are listed below. A basic homeowner, renters, a homeowner more comprehensive policy, condominium, vacant or builder's risk, and then of course your landlord policy. Your homeowner's policy, otherwise known in our industry as the HO-3, is your most common homeowner's insurance policy. This is going to give you your dwelling at an open perils and replacement cost. It's going to give you your personal property at a named peril, and replacement cost for personal property is available. However, it's not always included. So again, you want to make sure that you talk with your independent agent about that. Your HO-5 or your homeowner's insurance policy, this is going to be your more comprehensive coverage homeowner's policy. Dwelling is going to be open perils and replacement costs, and your personal property is going to be open perils, but your replacement costs on your personal property is going to be included, and you will have higher internal limits on items such as jewelry, computers, and other things. A renter's or HO-4 policy is going to be a personal property policy. This is going to be named peril, and replacement costs for your contents is not always included. So again, work with an agent to make sure that you have this taken care of. A homeowner's HO-6 policy, otherwise known as a condominium policy, includes coverage for the walls in. It's a named peril. It does have open perils available, but your personal property would be covered for named perils, and you'd have coverage for loss assessments. This is a coverage for losses assessed to each unit owner by the association. It is available depending on state up to $50,000. So what does walls in coverage really mean? This is going to be things like your flooring, cabinets, built-in appliances, and bathroom fixtures. Basically anything that's permanent from the studs in is going to be considered covered on a walls in policy. Your dwelling fire DP1 vacant builder's risk policy is available for structures that are vacant due to being on the market, under construction or renovation, between tenants. Coverage also includes actual cash value on the structure, fire, vandalism, and malicious mischief as covered perils. Theft of building materials can also be endorsed onto the policy. Liability can be included for injuries and damages while the property is vacant. Something I want just to kind of side note here is some of these items specifically in your state, and more specifically to the state of Arizona, you need to make sure that are endorsed onto the policy. So you want to, again, make sure you're working with an agent that you can rely on to make sure your client is taken care of. A dwelling fire DP3 landlord policy is available for structures that are non-owner occupied. They are tenant occupied and or vacation or seasonal rentals. Additional protection for a DP3, again landlord policy, is going to be loss of use for rental income, and then landlord liability for claims arising out of tenant exposure. A RAP policy can be called several different things depending on the state that you're in. So you want to make sure if you have any questions about this specific type of policy that you work with an independent insurance agent to make sure that you're just calling it the same thing, as this one can vary. A comprehensive policy for property builders covering the property owner, the general contractor, and all tiers of subcontractors that are enrolled. General liability coverage, property coverage, the coverage will begin at the start of the project, and you have completed operation coverage in effect for 10 years. And also just a side note, most of your clients, as well you might not even have known, that earthquake coverage is not covered on your basic homeowners, condo, renters, or even business policy. So what would your earthquake insurance cover if you were able to put an earthquake policy in place, which we can accommodate for your clients here at Integrity Insurance Services? It's going to cover things like coverage A and B, dwelling and other structures, your personal property, your loss of use, building code upgrades, as well as loss assessments for condo owner policies only. Has your home or place of business been retrofitted? These are things that as a realtor, you probably see on a daily basis and get questions on from clients. Well, these are things as insurance agents that we pay attention to as well. And we want to make sure that we have adequate policies and coverages in place for your clients. Flood insurance is also an item that is not covered on your homeowner's insurance policy. However, sometimes it can be required by mortgage companies depending on the flood zone of the property. Provided by the NFIP, and it's also sold through private carriers. Integrity Insurance Services has several carriers that can accommodate a flood insurance policy. Essentially, everyone in the country is in a flood zone. It just depends on what flood zone that you're in that will determine whether or not you're required to carry a flood insurance policy. What you should be looking for is a realtor that could have implications on the buyer and seller's homeowner's insurance. Here's your list of items that are your key points that you want to make sure you take away. We look for age and condition of roof. Most insurers will actually decline a roof or decline coverage, if the roof hasn't been replaced within 15 to 20 years. Is the electrical service 100% circuit breakers as opposed to fuses? Standard insurers will decline coverage if wiring is not 100% circuit breakers. Is there a pool? If the pool is by itself, is the pool by itself in a yard or completely fenced? Is there a slide? Is there a diving board? What kind of heating system does the home have? What condition is it in? We as insurers may surcharge if there's a secondary heating in the home, like a wood or coal burning stove, pellet stove, space heaters. Those are all things that we might have an additional charge for on the policy, and that way would be imperative for us to know. Are there any obvious glaring repairs that need to be made? Windows, siding, doors, etc., that could potentially present a problem if the home was inspected. This also goes for things like debris in the yard. We want to make sure that there's no glaring objections that could be looked at as a hazard when inspection comes around. Is there an underground oil tank on the premise? Insurers can actually decline coverage completely. Does the homeowner own a dog? Certain breeds will result in coverage declination. Of course, we want to thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to show you what we have in order to help provide value to your customers. Thank you so much for the chance. And if you have any questions or you have any additional comments you'd like to add, please feel free to email me at erin@integrityinsure.com. Feel free to always visit my website at www.integrityinsure.com. And then, of course, you can always contact our office. Thank you so much and have a great day.